Welcome back. Today we'll be uplifted with a word, a bit of history, a song, and a quote. So grab your favorite cuppa, settle in, and let's have a look. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for September 25th. September 25th is the 268th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 269th in leap years, with 97 days remaining to the end of the year. We recently looked at the word ascent. This prompted one of my viewers to suggest Ascent's homophone, ascent. As a reminder, homophones are words that sound alike, they're pronounced alike, but they're spelled differently and have different meanings, like all and all, two, and two, right, and right. This is similar but different from homonyms, which sound alike and are spelled alike, but have different meanings, like a pool of water versus a game of pool. So ascent and ascent are homophones, meaning they sound alike, but they're spelled differently and have different meanings. That said, ascent is a noun that means the act of ascending or rising, moving upward, like the ascent of vapors from the earth, or the rocket's ascent into the sky was breathtaking. Ascent can mean a going, traveling, or climbing up, as to the top of a hill, or the source of a river, as in the narrow path made the final ascent to the summit difficult, or someone's ascent of a river in a canoe. Ascent can refer to the way or means of ascending, an upward slope or rising grade, as in the plane began its gradual ascent after takeoff. Ascent can mean the degree of elevation or upward slope, as in the road has an ascent of 6 degrees, or the road makes a steep ascent at the hilltop. Ascent can refer to a rising or ascending from a lower level or degree to a higher one, advancement, especially in social status, intellectual achievement, or reputation, as in her rapid ascent in the company surprised everyone. Or one's ascent from the working class to the middle class. Or his ascent to fame was swift but well-deserved. Ascent can have to do with going back in time or upward in order of genealogical succession, as in any person in line of ascent from the claimant to the common ancestor. So as you can see, ascent really just has to do with going up. The word ascent comes to us really from Latin, with a few stops in Old French and Middle English. First known use of the word ascent is in the 1500s, ascent. Inspired by our look at Ascent the other day, the word ascent was suggested by Odyssey viewer Charles B. Ranting. Thanks, Charles. We have a few more in that request that we'll be looking at in the coming days, and if you have a word you'd like to see in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll get it on the list. The subject line said, "For the last time, the Roman Senate chooses an emperor. They elected Marcus Claudius Tacitus emperor on this date in the year 275. He was 75 years old at the time and reigned until his death the following June. That doesn't mean he was the last emperor, though, by any means. Rome would go on having emperors for another couple hundred years, with the last one being Romulus Augustus, from October of 475 to September of 476. He was nicknamed Augustulus, which meant Little Augustus, as a knock on his young age, as he was only about 13 or 14 when he became emperor in October of 475. Most emperors ruled until the end of their lives, but Romulus Augustus was deposed by a barbarian general named Odoacer, who allowed Romulus to retire. And rather than declare himself emperor, Odoacer decided to become king of Italy, ruling until his death in March of the year 493 when he was 60 years old. And so we go from emperors to kings. Historians sometimes mark the deposition of Romulus Augustus in 476 as the transition from the period of antiquity to the medieval period. If you've been following my episodes recently, you might recall that I've been spending quite a bit of time down at the tire shop getting new tires on our aging but still in pretty decent shape cars. In the waiting area there, they have piped in a Sirius XM channel that plays hits from the 80s and 90s, and yesterday I heard a song I hadn't heard or thought about in a long time, so let's talk about it. Time After Time, written by Cyndi Lauper and Rob Hyman, appears on Cyndi Lauper's debut studio album, She's So Unusual. The album was released in 1983, but Time After Time was released as the second single from that album in March of 1984. The title of this song was inspired by the name of a 1979 science fiction movie, Time After Time. Lyrically, the song Time After Time is quite different from the movie Time After Time. The song lyrics were inspired by things that both songwriters had or were going through in their lives, ending up with a ballad of love and devotion. Time After Time became Cyndi's first #1 single on the Billboard charts, and it did well around the world and has been covered by dozens of artists and featured in several movies. Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper, link in the description. How about that? For today's quote, I found one meant to uplift and encourage. Oh, there's Ripley. Hi, Ripley. What's going on? It surprised me. Back to today's quote. I found one meant to uplift and encourage, and it is: the ascent to greatness, however steep, is always worth the climb. No. Alrighty, y'all, take care. Be good to each other. I'll see you next time. That said, hold on, Mr. Keyboard. Let's have you sit right over here, okay? That's a good keyboard. Good keyboard. That spell check is one tricky girl. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. No Really. No Really. Consider following my Day in History page on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I also have a Patreon account now, or you can buy me a coffee. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.